We're making an ad.
Napping ad.
This is where I think if we're doing it right, Alec Baldwin comes in. He says a couple things. He listens to the podcast every week. Yep. Has he been canceled? Wait, is Alec Baldwin the one who killed somebody? I hear that Gary Sinise is free.
Oh, okay, great.
He hasn't worked since 2020.
So, what would be the script that we would have Gary Sinise say for the Napping Through Happy Hour podcast?
Listen to this damn show. Damn it.
The Napping Through Happy Hour podcast brought to you by Geekscape.
Real life, real drama, real time.
I'm Gary Sinise.
That's the ad. That's the ad. That's the ad.
At Maximum Mediocrity, people say things like,
I don't dress like this on the regular basis. This isn't my, pooping uniform. This is not
and they also say things like,
The nurses are usually either angels of mercy or whores.
Every episode is a new experience where you get to know people that aren't famous but should be.
Why did my facing Floyd Mayweather in the woods?
My co-host Morgan and I track down the people you didn't know you needed to hear from.
It's like hot sex in a mug.
We are the Maximum Mediocrity Podcast, and we are on all major podcasting platforms. We'll be waiting for you.
And welcome to another episode of Horror Movie Night. This week we are talking about Orphan from 2009 as picked by Kyle. I'm going to guess because of the 15-year anniversary this month?
Yes, I did not vet this. It does not fall into the seasonally appropriate. Well, actually, this is what Connecticut looks like in June.
All the time, yes.
But all the time. But I did not, it was truly only simply based on the anniversary. And I saw it in theaters and I remember having a really fun time. I had much more fun this watch. It is kind of a wild ride.
It's very twisted.
And it's super twisted. It's super twisted. And as you know, kind, dear listener and co-hosts, I love a pulpy horror paperback. And this just mwah. Like, if I was reading this in some dusty old, out of print, fucking, 79 paperback, it felt so pure. And I enjoyed it, even though it was definitely not a summer movie by any means. I wanted to celebrate it on its birthday.
I would not worry about that. So this was my first watch. Scott, was this your first watch?
Yeah.
Okay.
I never had an interest because it's a thriller.
Yeah,
sure.
This thriller fucking is great. Let's just get it out of the way. Kyle, I already know that your Letterboxd was a 3.5 stars because Matt told me. I don't have Letterboxd, but maybe I'd give it 3 stars. For what it is, I think it's really good. Now, Matt's gonna be very, very critical of this movie. I
can't wait.
I have legit critiques for it as well, from a sociological standpoint.
For sure.
But I think that it's just a really good, fucked up, kind of exploitative movie. I mean,
So I guess, all right, so here's the thing. The first note that I wrote down was as I hit play on this movie, I'm realizing that the only thing I know about the movie is the twist. The only thing I knew.
I did know the twist as well. Yeah.
I knew that twist.
Okay.
And I think my problem was that by the end of the movie, this felt and for reasons that the audience doesn't need to know, I just combed through all 460 some episodes that we've released of this podcast. This, at the time I was watching it, felt like the meanest movie we've ever talked about for this podcast.
Whoa.
And I just had a real, I was really struggling with it. And I don't know what it was where I was so disconnected from it, but the psychological torture and gaslighting that is happening to this woman throughout the movie just like actually upset me. And I will say, and I texted you guys this in advance, this movie does not need to be 2 hours and 3 minutes. There's world where that is the appropriate runtime for this movie.
No.
So
Certainly
it was like, not only was it like feeling so mean and like kind of gross, but it also just like kept going.
Yeah. No, it's pretty unrelenting in its hatred of women altogether.
Well, did you see that Joel Silver is one of the producers? I think that may have something to do with it.
You know, you follow the family tree here, and the long line of just not liking women. But you know, it's also like that's part of it in some regards too, right? So it's like it's certainly mean spirited by all. You know, the same way that like Silent Night, Deadly Night gets mean spirited that we talked about a lot. Like where
and
it's
Matt
just
doesn't like that movie either. But I think that movie is. I would
I've
say
never said that I don't
is,
like Silent Night, Deadly Night.
You said it's dark, too dark for you.
It's when it comes to the Christmas horror movies that I watch, I will always lean more towards like Black Christmas, Black Xmas,
but
and
Black
even
Christmas
something
is
like
even
Elves.
darker than Silent Night, Deadly Night. I don't understand you.
I think it's because like very classy in how fucked up it is, and
wait, Black Christmas, 1978 or whatever.
Oh yeah, I think that is a classy. I think that's a classy movie. 74. I think that is. I think that is a super well made, super well paced.
Where it says "little piggy c word." Do you think that's classy, Matt?
I think it's.
I just want the listeners to truly understand the implications here.
I want the listeners to show up in my defense in here. I think that Silent Night, Deadly Night is more grimy, which is why I prefer like parts 4 and 5 that are just like
Matt,
bombastically.
The one with the Pinocchio incest is the one that you find less grimy.
Scott, I feel like
you are so problematic.
I think you're intentionally being obtuse. My point is like 4, 5, Elves, Black Xmas are so over the top and outrageous and like disconnected from reality, whereas like Black Christmas and Silent Night, Deadly Night are both way more tied into reality, but like the fact that like Black Christmas kind of is like doesn't really show that much. It kind of just tells, and it's like a well kind of shot mystery, and it's trying to handle it like a real movie, whereas like every second of Silent Night, Deadly Night, you can feel like, where's the tits and ass in this?
There's literally a Carnival Barker as the executive producer.
It's just like, it's just on that trash level where like, as a guy who dives into Christmas November 1st, that's like my November 1st watch. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's like, okay, I'm still a little bit in Halloween. I'm going to use this to transition. And then it's out of sight, out of mind for the next 2 months. Like it did its job. Let's get to the black and white.
Is Elves November 2nd then, or does that go?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Actually,
the dirtiest
Halloween night is when I watch Black Christmas. I watch it right at midnight on Halloween night, and then I go to bed.
I don't live with you. That's so
an anomaly.
And so back to Orphan. So
which happens on January 1st. Orphan, she comes to. No, it's not a New Year's thing. But it is very wintry.
It feels like kind of a Christmassy movie.
Well,
but
they do open
her
presents.
Birthday.
Oh, but it's not really Christmas.
Yeah, but I think it's just her birthday. I can't tell if it's Christmas.
Like adoption day or
she's
something.
Getting.
I was going to say, I think it's a gotcha day type situation.
Gotcha day.
Quick little aside that'll probably get cut. Today is Albie's 4-year adoption day. His gotcha day. So
why would I ever cut that? That's adorable, and everybody should know.
Anyway, but what I was going to say is that what really I had no preconceived notions for this movie except for the fact that it was too long and that it was a thriller, and I don't like thrillers. But when you get this intro scene of Vera Farmiga having this nightmare about her dead baby being ripped from her body, and there's like, it's so gory and it does not flinch. It makes you flinch, and I was like, oh, that's the kind of movie this is going to be? Okay. And so it like really did prime me for it. I was like, this is definitely a Kyle pick. You know, it really...
That hospital scene rivals
It's
Jacob's
good.
Ladder in terror of like hospital scenes. Like it has that energy plus more. Like it really does. Like, because the punctuation of it... is incredible. I mean, it's weird. It's like I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to spoil it, even though everybody knows the twist. But that's the thing. You guys went in only knowing the twist, not knowing much else, and that's the viewing experience, right? So it's like if you can go in and watch some of these kills, some of this psychological warfare, it just is. It is dark. It's dark, but it's very fun.
I mean, from that hospital scene
in your life,
like from
they are
that
great.
hospital scene alone, though, like it's unhinged. It's pretty clear right out the gate that you're watching a dream, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no point where like the second that they're like pushing her in the wheelchair and blood's pouring out of her and no one's reacting, you're like, okay, we're in a dream. But it's like the fact that she wakes up so calmly from it, when like in any other movie, it'd be like a jolt awake movie, tells you so much. It tells you that this is not the first time she's had this dream, that like she is still very much in the throes of the depression of losing this baby. Like it's all so heavy. And I think that I can tell you the exact moment where I wrote down like, I hate this movie. and it truly was when Esther pulls out all of the flowers from the stillborn baby's grave and gives it to her.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is just like, it's too cruel.
Yeah.
And then I did the time check and I'm like, and there's an
still
hour
for 40
left
minutes.
of it.
It's incredible how much damage Esther does.
Yeah.
Now, that was the maddening part for me, was that like, so for the listeners who don't understand this, let me fill you guys in. What I want you all to understand is that what malignant narcissists do to you is they make you feel fucking crazy. And then they pit everyone against everyone else. And it's very hard and kind of triggering to watch something like that sometimes, because, I mean, it's also not fair to expect people to know that, and so they have to really kind of be ham-fisted with Kate, Vera Farmiga, where, like her husband won't believe her, Max is an accessory to fucking murder, and like, it is so isolating. Yeah. And I also understand that well, we'll get into the kind of backlash that this movie had later, but I think that the backlash was understandable too. I think my problem also going into this is that we're 2 years since the prequel First Kill came out.
Oh yeah,
that was 2022. Same actor in the Lena / Esther.
Such a great move.
Have you watched it?
I've not seen it. I
had all these great plans. I was gonna do a back to back and have that be my what did I watch, but I could not get. No. Between this and next week are just excruciatingly long.
But everything I heard about this, the prequel was like, this is like campy B trash, like it's so like it like scratches all the right itches. And I've listened to like bad movie podcasts discuss it and just talk about like how fun it is, because it sounds like in the prequel the parents catch on much quicker that she's not who she says she is, but like they become the accessories, like they're the ones helping with the murders. And I think that is way more of what I was expecting when I went into this. Like, okay, this is going to be like kind of campy. It's going to be kind of dumb. And it's like, no, this movie's dead fucking serious.
Yeah.
Every second it's happening. But then it like has these moments where I just felt like the logic loop was driving me insane. Like when they're accusing Kate of drinking again, as if there's no way to check if there's alcohol in her system at that moment.
Also,
like
what the fuck is one bottle of wine the night before she takes the kids to school gonna do to her?
Yeah,
you
like
know?
it's like stuff like
to
that drove me nuts.
Like a recovering alcoholic.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I wrote this down so that we're jumping far ahead, right? But there's a scene where Daniel sneaks into the tree house because he knows that there's evidence up there, and Esther sets the tree house on fire, and Kate can't do anything about it because she's on the phone. And I just wrote like, hey, Kate, no chance you can do any of this shit while the kids are at school. Like, we've just seen you drop them off, like, literally, like, 5 minutes earlier.
But
like,
grandma is also facing the window that's looking out.
Grandma is terrible.
So
let's not.
I know that, and I understand that the cards are stacked against Kate. She has a large uphill battle here, whether it's deserved or not. It doesn't. She just has it. But grandma there's no TV over there. She's facing the window. She's facing the window, just hoping one of her fucking grandkids dies, so she could be like, "It was that wine, wasn't it?" Which I have a nice glass of Chianti. It's just the last part of the bottle so that I could get through this last, death of my child.
I was going to have wine as well, but then I decided to make a Shirley Temple because Esther can't drink and neither can Kate.
I love that. This is my favorite note that I've written, which just says, what psychopath builds a school at the top of a straight up hill in a regularly icy part of the country?
That was probably my favorite scene. So tense, like watching through the back window was unreal.
Great scene. I just was like, who built this school for just like,
who did
this
that?
is not
winters
on Kate.
Winters were colder 10, 20, 50 years ago when you built this. Okay. Like,
that was definitely built in the 60s. They would have known better.
Yeah, they should have a better idea.
I think that the locale for this, which it was actually Toronto, but they said it was Hamden, Connecticut.
Which there are schools like that there.
The thing for me that was the thing that broke my suspension of disbelief was like the least realistic thing about this entire unrealistic concept of this film is that this family has money to raise 2 kids, adopt a 3rd child, and live in this massive, like, built-to-suit house in the foothills in Connecticut. I mean, I guess.
Dude, Hamden is outside New Haven, which is Yale. Like, that's Yale country, right? So, like,
That's because the
The
most
husband
important
was a
part about
former
that.
one of them was she was a former teacher at Yale.
Kate is a former piano teacher at Yale, so she's just a composer.
I mean, I don't know
what the
what
fuck
her
does
deal
the husband do? Is he and he's around a lot, so it's not like absent father syndrome where he's too busy being a lawyer.
I think he's an architect.
That money's coming from.
He had when he was getting his portrait done, he was there, but there's no real mention of that. That's just sort of like he's at an architect's table. Forgive me. So I hope that's not rude.
I think
of
it's
me
called
to
the
say.
drafting table.
Drafting table.
Right?
Okay, so table is in the name. It's not a fancy tool that I don't know the name of that I'm being insulting about. But I that's what I gathered. But that was so late in the game. Like that's already when Esther is like, you need marital help, huh? And it's like, let me paint you like one of my French women.
Yeah, I will put this out there. As much as I dislike this movie, I get why the actress who plays Esther just cleaned up on like film festivals and stuff like that because her performance is incredible in this movie.
Yeah,
really good.
Well, it was that's what's so funny is that this movie between her name is Isabelle Fuhrman and then Vera Farmiga, amazing actors, and then everybody else is shit. Like, the only other good actor is the little girl who plays the deaf Max.
And it's mostly because she was actually deaf.
Yeah.
Well, that would explain. Peter Sarsgaard, right? He's the husband. He's awful and useless in this.
Yeah,
literally,
the therapist is the worst.
Oh my god, the therapist. You know who I wanted? I wanted Kathy Bates to be the therapist. I don't know why. That seemed like it would have been like a great little.
The husband character specifically makes me so frustrated because like. It's one thing if Kate is being the only one that's paranoid and sending warnings, but like literally the second the nun shows up and is like, hey, we started looking into some stuff and a lot of strange things happened, to just immediately be like, well, that's all just coincidence. Like, it's like, no, maybe you should like listen to this is like the patriarchy, the movie. Like any woman who says anything to this man is shut down because it's a woman. Like it is so frustrating. Like you said, Kyle, this movie hates women.
Yeah. If I had a penny for every time the dad / husband goes, let so and so finish, to Kate, the mom, I'd have like 3 pennies, which is a lot.
Which is more
That's a
pennies
lot
than
for
you-
in 2 hours. I'm just saying.
Yes.
It's God. I feel
I don't
bad.
want to say that I would ever watch this movie again.
Right.
Let me
Okay.
be clear.
So
I would
let
never
me-
watch it again. But it was well done in certain parts.
So I wrote this note down. I'm just going to read it. If Esther here, guys, if you somehow missed the spoiler, I'm about to ruin it here. But if Esther truly is a 33-year-old serial killer, then she has a terrible method that involves leaving lots of evidence leading to her consistently, and that she only kills people directly tied to her or her family. And it's like, that's kind of fucking dumb. Like, I'm just saying, like, at least Chucky will kill some, like, random ass folk every once in a while. I was like, you're bad at this, Esther. You're actually quite bad at this.
She does.
She's a baby. She's only 9 years old.
Baby serial killer.
She's 33, Scott. Stop saying she's 9.
She'll get there. She's got a lot of life to live. Okay.
Yeah.
She's got a lot of
Like,
life.
here's
to live.
another
Not at
idea.
the end of this. She gets her fucking
No,
head
she gets
clocked back.
That was a
clocked, dude.
wild
yeah,
shot.
She gets clocked, and it is insane.
2009.
Poor Max, dude.
So a movie that I will compare this to, not in any other way but this. This movie has a lot of the same energy of like the 2005 House of Wax movie, which is to say, we've talked about this, from like 2005 to 2010, not only were movies super, like horror movies super mean, they were not pulling away from any moment of violence. There was no implied violence in this movie. We saw a bird explode. We saw a child's ankle just snap into right then and there.
I have a line that just
we saw her
just
neck.
Like,
we saw her neck like fully twist off of her head from this kick. Like that is and I think that's why, like, that was the time period where I started to tap out on horror movies.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't see this when it came out. Like by about House of Wax, I had already been like, these are too much.
This is
like
his like follow up to House of Wax. So like both of these.
Are you serious? The same guy?
I'm pretty sure it's the same guy. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So I thought
Man,
you
that's
knew that. I
hilarious.
thought you were like
No.
Yeah, no.
I just sensed an energy was the same. I guess.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. So, you're right.
I'm, like,
you're absolutely right, and you
furiously
tapped
Googling.
out at the right time, apparently, because it was getting pretty brutal for Matt Kelly over there.
yeah, he did House of Wax in 2005, Orphan in 2009, and then The Shallows in 2016.
The Shallows is the one that's the oddball of that trilogy.
Oh, The Shallows is the oddball, not
the
Jungle
one with Blake
Cruise and
Lively.
Black Adam.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Oh, Black Adam falls directly in line.
Black
actually.
Adam is horrifying. Yeah. It's brutal. Still hates women. Jungle Cruise. I forgot about Jungle
The
Cruise.
Shallows wasn't awful. As a person,
Is that a
who
shark
has
movie?
watched,
It's a shark
that's a
movie,
shark
right?
one. As a person
Blake
who's
Lively,
watched
yeah.
pretty much any major released shark movie, I'm not going to waste my time on sci-fi shark movies,
Yeah.
but like theatrical release ones. The Shallows had a good energy to it. That was like Blake Lively trapped on a rock surrounded by sharks survival movie, which usually is more intense and more interesting. Same with like the 47 Meters Down movie. Like I can handle single person survivor in ocean filled with shark movie a lot more than I can handle shark has been mutated with octopus and is crawling onto the beach.
Are you
on
talking
sci-fi
shit about? Oh, I was
No,
talking about shit about my
the-
pick.
No. I would not drop shade on Devilfish, but I do have some fun notes tied to that for next week. Stay tuned.
We're making an ad.
Napping ad.
This is where I think if we're doing it right, Alec Baldwin comes in. He says a couple things. He listens to the podcast every week. Has he been canceled? Wait, is Alec Baldwin the one who killed somebody? I hear that Gary Sinise is free.
Oh, okay, great.
He hasn't worked since 2020.
So, what would be the script that we would have Gary Sinise say for the Napping Through Happy Hour podcast?
Listen to this damn show. Damn it.
The Napping Through Happy Hour podcast brought to you by Geekscape.
Real life, real drama, real time.
I'm Gary Sinise.
That's the ad. That's the ad. That's the ad.
At Maximum Mediocrity, people say things like,
I don't dress like this on the regular basis. This isn't my, pooping uniform. This is not.
and they also say things like,
The nurses are usually either angels of mercy or whores.
every episode is a new experience where you get to know people that aren't famous but should be.
Why did my facing Floyd Mayweather in the woods?
My co-host Morgan and I track down the people you didn't know you needed to hear from.
It's like hot sex in a mug.
We are the Maximum Mediocrity Podcast, and we are on all major podcasting platforms. We'll be waiting for you.
Meanwhile, in New Jersey...
So, Marissa, what talking points do you want to hit on in this week's episode?
Well, Jackie, let's talk about how the film addresses the patriarchy. Ooh, and representation of marginalized people. Ooh, and even philosophical ramifications of good versus evil in horror.
We can point out the triangle boobs, talk about the blood splatter, and the practical effects. And also the male gaze.
My gaze at the males.
Hi-oh! From feminism to fangirling, the Jersey Ghouls cover all the bases of horror from a woman's perspective.
New episodes are uploaded every other Sunday.
Just search Jersey Ghouls to find us on social media and your favorite podcasting app.
I mean, we'll just address this too. Even knowing that this is supposed to be a 33-year-old woman, it's still a child playing the character, and there's some real ick scenes.
Really hard to watch
hard.
that seduction.
Really difficult.
Really fucking hard.
Really difficult. And that's on top of everything else that's been not super comfy. One of my notes is just uncomfortable. Just uncomfortable. It's brutal. It's and it is long. It's long. Like, I don't need two of those gaslighting moments. Like, those can be removed. We can just skip right ahead.
It's pacing and cruelty really did it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm sure that there are some movies in the early years that I just don't remember that much of, like Jugface and The Ruins, which I wasn't a fan of either.
The Ruins was bad, dude. You would have a raw... Jugface isn't great, and there's incest in that.
There's Primal. That was another one that I think we all hated.
Was bad. Yeah, people were mad that we didn't like Primal. But The Ruins might have been...
They were mad we didn't like The Ruins.
You think people are still mad? I guess people might be still mad.
Kyle's looking at us like
Primal.
he's mad that we didn't like The Ruins.
I'm not mad. I'm just
disappointed.
Yeah.
Did you hear how high his voice went?
But I understand. What you're describing about the time period makes a lot of sense to me. It's I don't feel the same. That's where I thrive sometimes.
Well, I was going to say, let me ask you,
host
but here's the difference, Kyle. Let me ask you this question.
Shut up, Scott.
What was your age range in 2005 to 2009?
I saw this in theater, and I don't know if 2009, I was just graduating high school. So I was.
So that's the thing. 2009, I was I was recently out of college for over a year.
Yeah.
And was trying to figure shit out.
Yeah.
So I think that there's this also element of when you're in high school, just the excitement of seeing a horror movie in theaters automatically makes it one of your favorite things.
And then you go to film school and everything dies.
Yeah. Well, because I've talked about one of the few times I actually enjoyed watching a really bad movie was when I saw Truth or Dare in theaters, which is a truly awful horror film. But I went on a Friday night and it was filled with high schoolers. And even though the movie was bad, I was still feeding off the energy of how much they were loving the movie.
Yeah.
And it does remind you oh yeah, especially if you're in that sophomore year to senior year, it could be the biggest pile of dog shit.
Oh yeah. Fucking that's the game changer. I don't have to have my parents even drive me and drop me off. I can go see a movie. It was the best. I definitely rolled up to the Orphan in my 1998 red Volkswagen Jetta. It had 220,000 miles on it. The CD player was a 5 or 6 CD changer in the trunk that I would have to listen to, and if I drove too fast or hit a bump too hard, you skip everything, and then sometimes you don't have music for the rest of your drive. Luckily, the theater was not that far away, but I know that's how I got to Orphan. And I'm so glad we got to rewatch it. That I got to rewatch it for the show. I'm glad that you guys did. I'm glad we talked about it.
So how are you continuing?
Yeah, I was
your
gonna
night?
say. if you were like renting this after seeing it in the theaters like the next year,
so
what other thing would you grab?
This is gonna be a little. Well, maybe it's not that weird. Maybe it's like right on par with what you think. I want to watch House by the Cemetery.
Bob?
Yeah. And so like they're not very related other than their New England like existence. But for me, I love this. I don't know. Like for some reason, the house, even though the house doesn't contain any secrets in Orphan, the house feels like its own sort of character. And I don't know. There's so much absurdity. There's so much pull. I was just thinking House by the Cemetery a lot while I was watching it.
All right.
And that's what I'm going to go with.
So mine, I may have gotten some assistance from IMDb trivia that mentions this particular film enough. And I was like, oh man, they're right. This has a lot of similarities. And it truly was the 90s version of Orphan in many ways. The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, which like has, I think, similarly a New England location. It's a lot of gaslighting a mother. It even has a sequence in a greenhouse where the glass shatters on top of somebody. Like there's a lot of symmetry. Also a movie I would prefer to never do on this show. I can't stop anyone from picking anything, but like it would be my preference not to.
That one feels like, Scott, like this one is definitely thriller, but it just has enough sort of like gore and scares. Hand That Rocks the Cradle is like true.
Definitive thriller.
That's like definitive thriller. Which sometimes, I don't know, like sometimes it works. The Crush, when we watched it, was very thriller. And I thought that it worked. I don't know if Hand That Rocked the Cradle would work, but it's a great double feature.
Sometimes you just want a thriller night. So Kyle,
wow.
Wait,
Scott,
what about me? Scott, over to you. What would your double feature be?
It wouldn't be a good night, but we would follow this up with Hereditary. That would be a slog.
That's hardcore.
That's a long time and a lot of trauma. But yeah, also, I completely forgot to talk about the fact that this movie got dragged because when it came out because it kind of was like anti-adoption because it rolls up all these cliches about like these fears and cliches about what could happen if you adopt a child, and they are absolutely right in being critical of this movie for that, because it really does play on all of those things. Like it'll be like, if you get if you adopt a child who's not a baby from Eastern Europe, they will try to sleep with your husband. They will try to kill your kids. They will try and break your family apart, and then they will try and burn your house down.
Happens
maybe
all the
in
time.
that order. Yeah, I mean, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah,
but I truly think that this movie is grimiest when you think about it in the real damage that it probably did in the cultural consciousness. So yeah, and I think that the best part about that is that their like little Band-Aid on that was that they put a little note in the DVD that says, "Please consider adoption."
No,
I just watched 2 hours of a psychopathic 33-year-old who's not actually a 9-year-old being adopted.
That is such a 2009 response to somebody bringing up criticism.
Right? Yeah.
Which let me say something slightly controversial, I guess. I don't know. Matt Kelly, never one to shy away from controversy.
Yeah, dude, you say the gnarliest shit.
Modern medicine is dope as hell, and it's allowed a lot of people to get IVFs and be able to have pregnancy well past when they're able to get pregnant, and I am friends with many people who have benefited from that. But the one thing that bothers me is that it feels like adoption is really dropping at an alarming rate when there are a lot of kids who could really use a home. So just throwing it out there, if you really badly want a kid and you don't have the $2 million or whatever it costs to do, like
probably about $60,000.
Yeah, like if you don't have like this
1 or 2 injections,
yeah. So if you don't have the ton of money that are necessary for that, please consider adoption. I promise that it won't be a 33-year-old Russian girl,
but it will be longer than 2 hours of your life.
It will be longer than 2 hours. So do consider,
hopefully,
do consider that. Let's dive into the what did we watch, Kyle? What have you checked out? What have you been watching, etc.?
When was the last time either of you sat down and watched anything Winnie the Pooh related?
Pretty regularly. I'm a big Winnie the Pooh head.
Okay, Pooh head for sure.
I dove back into it even harder when the Christopher Robin movie came out in 2019.
Sure. Yeah,
reignited my love of the Pooh.
Okay, all right. Scott's just no Pooh.
I don't have any need for that in my life.
And I've mentioned this before in this sort of ongoing attempt and interest in all the Disney studio release films. I think the last one I talked about was Freaky Friday with Jodie Foster. Yes. Finally got back into it somehow. I don't know why or how. I think we actually didn't finish Freaky Friday when I was telling you guys about it, so we finished the last half hour of it. And then the next one that comes out in the lineage that is easily accessible when we're stoned at 10 p.m. at night is The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, the anthology film of the Pooh cartoons that Disney puts out. And I don't know, man. Winnie the Pooh is... I just kept singing that he's a stupid fucking silly old bear, because he really is such a dumbass. He gets stuck in a hole a lot. It seems like multiple stories have him being completely stuck. And I don't know, I used to watch Pooh a lot as a kid. I think I maybe probably did more of the 90s cartoon than I realized. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it just got me thinking. I was thinking about to be frank, go watch it. It's fine. It's a good time. That's I guess is a recommendation. But I just found it interesting thinking about how the character of Tigger gets translated into what Tigger is now. You know what I mean? That was a character truly written in a kid's book, but all the most of the characterizations evolved from Disney's depiction of Tigger, right? There's a foundation, but Tigger is this truly extravagant character. And I don't know, I just got so stuck on it because basically in this film, Tigger just has short-term memory loss and is very excited, you know? I don't know, it was very pleasant. But I was just like, man, he's dumb. And I love him.
Oh boy, is he.
But boy, is he. Anyway, I don't have a lot to report back on, y'all.
Well, I'm going to bounce off that. Much like my man Tigger on his tail. I'm going to follow up on something cartoony as well, because X-Men 97 is arguably the best thing Marvel Studios has put out in the last decade. Just top tier storytelling, great pacing. At the start, it felt like, oh my God, they're rushing these stories. What is happening? And then you get to this payoff and you're like, how did they do it in 10 episodes? It's so impressive what they do. I'm super excited for where the next season leads. But I mean, especially if you were a kid who grew up watching the 90s X-Men cartoon series, this is better. This is better in every single way, shape, and form. And something that pretty much every Geekscape podcast that has been discussing X-Men has said the same thing, but I'm also going to back them on this. The idea to completely kind of shove Wolverine into the background and actually let the X-Men shine, because, of course, by the 90s, it was just it was Wolverine plus the X-Men was the show.
So annoying.
It's great. It's great. As a guy who loves Nightcrawler, he's just kills it the whole second half of the series. So just gonna highly recommend if you were afraid to move forward because Marvel has burned you so many times in the last decade, this one is legitimately good.
Yeah, and I've watched 3 episodes of it, and I really liked it. I just need to get back to it. It's been very, very busy. So a complete non sequitur from Matt. Instead of something that I know that we talk a lot about media, but media is art, right? And so I wanted to talk about this piece of art that I had commissioned. Now, a friend of mine, his on social media is Dave Ruins Art, and I've known him for a very long time. I mean, tertiarily, I've known him for a very long time. He lives a couple towns over. He's actually quite popular on TikTok, which is cool. But he, for a very long time, has done commissions on and off, as well as his own work, to take thrift store paintings and then paint over them with weird things like monsters or ghosts or Star Wars stuff. So I had been trying to get a hold of him to do one for me and one for Megan for a very long time. And finally, the stars aligned. He was like, I have time to do the commission now. I was like, awesome. So I gave him the 2 paintings, and he finished the first one last night. And he sent me the picture, and I'll show it to you guys, and I'll post it also on the group. So what I asked him to do is a kind of like a forest monster similar to the monster in The Ritual, and 2015 I want to say it was, but and so he did. But the more insane part about it, the reason why I have to tell you guys about it, is that was the original picture, and then this is the picture under blacklight. And
wow,
this
what
is
a
the
beautiful
picture.
tie-in to this movie.
Exactly. That's why I was like, holy shit. And that's it. It glows in the dark too.
Oh.
So there are different
my
parts of it
God.
that are visible in different lighting. And so when the dad in Orphan starts pulling down the paintings and he sees that there's like other paintings on the wall that are in blacklight, I'm just like, I got to give a shout out to my boy Dave Ruins Art. So follow him on Instagram.
I'm watching the video
TikTok
right now, and it's gnarly.
Yes.
It's so cool.
Yeah,
I'm not listening to a word you say, Scott. I'm just watching the video.
But anyway, so love him, great guy, very, very talented, and he's also going to be doing one for Megan as well. I don't know if it's going to be glow in the dark / blacklight as well, but he was like, he knew that I wanted scary monster and that Megan wanted more spooky ghosts. So we'll see what he comes up with for her.
Love it.
Well, this movie didn't have any spooky ghosts, but it certainly had a scary monster in the form of a 9-year-old girl. So
33!
Stay tuned for even more horror movie night next week.
We're making an ad.
Napping ad.
This is where I think if we're doing it right, Alec Baldwin comes in. He says a couple things. He listens to the podcast every week. Has he been canceled? Was Alec Baldwin the one who killed somebody? I hear that Gary Sinise is free.
Oh, okay, great.
He hasn't worked since 2020.
So, what would be the script that we would have Gary Sinise say for the Napping Through Happy Hour podcast?
Listen to this damn show. Damn it.
The Napping Through Happy Hour podcast, brought to you by Geekscape.
Real life, real drama, real time.
I'm Gary Sinise.
That's the ad. That's the ad. That's the ad.
At Maximum Mediocrity, people say things like,
I don't dress like this on the regular basis. This isn't my, pooping uniform. This is not.
and they also say things like,
The nurses are usually either angels of mercy or whores.
Every episode is a new experience where you get to know people that aren't famous but should be.
Why did my facing Floyd Mayweather in the woods?
My co-host Morgan and I track down the people you didn't know you needed to hear from.
It's like hot sex in a mug.
We are the Maximum Mediocrity Podcast, and we are on all major podcasting platforms. We'll be waiting for you.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.